Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jim and Frank's Thursday Throwdown!
Well, Jim, right off the bat, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Ready for another Thursday Throwdown, brother.
Well, look who we have with us. Why don't you introduce our guest?
I know Mr. Ronnie Barnett of the Muffs here,
Hey,
and that could be a clue as to what we're going to be discussing tonight.
Oh my goodness, it's one of two things. One would be the Muffs, or what would be the other thing? Ronnie, what albums are we going to talk about tonight?
yeah, am I really that typecast, fellas?
Well, it
Around
seems
us,
when
you
we
are.
have you on, we talk about this band. So
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about. I've actually whipped them out.
All right, all right.
excuse me while I whip this out.
Yeah, I thought I might need to reference songs or something. So there we go. There we go.
Well, I did as well. Yep.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. I didn't dig them out, as Frank
You know,
always does.
Mine are
Yeah.
handy. These are most of my records are. I moved 6 months ago. Most of my records are in boxes, but my Kiss records are handy.
Good.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
As they should be.
Yes, and that might be the second time I've said handy this episode.
So we're going to talk about Alive and Alive 2. My goodness. For me, Alive, first time I heard it, I still had never actually seen the band live, and I
Yeah.
still didn't know who was singing what songs.
Oh,
And
same.
I will tell you, I thought Paul Stanley was Gene Simmons and Gene Simmons was Paul Stanley. I thought Gene was the front man just
Yeah.
by the pictures.
No. I remember reading lead singer Gene Simmons in an
Right.
article, and I was 10 when Alive came out. You
Mhm.
guys are a little older than me,
Couple of years, yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah. So when I saw them in '76 for the first
Okay.
time, age 11, and I was shocked at like Paul Stanley. Let's face it, I know they both sing lead, but he's the lead singer.
He is the
Yeah.
lead. He's the front
He's
man.
he's the
Well, he's
front
the
man.
front man.
Yeah.
He does all the talking, and so yeah, and like you say, Frank, Gene's image is so strong.
Right.
Yeah, and as kids, and yeah, I didn't understand that, and this is beyond like the Cars, like recognizing
Right.
they had two lead singers
Right.
because
And
they
were
had
very
similar voices.
Yes.
Yes, these two did not. I mean, now in retrospect, it's easy to be like, obviously, there's two different guys
Yeah.
singing, but yeah, absolutely.
Well, what are your first impressions, Jim, when you first heard the album Alive?
Alive.
Right.
I was blown away.
Yeah.
Absolutely blown away. And I had heard the 3 studio records,
Mhm.
right? So I was familiar with the song somewhat, mostly Dress to Kill, but
Yeah.
it sounded so much better than the studio versions.
Right.
Everything was a little faster and louder, and the this just produced so much better.
Yeah.
It was everything I would expect from a live performance, I think.
With the studio albums, you didn't have that distortion. You didn't have that in your face feel, because looking back at their first 3 albums, they're pretty mellow in the raunchy guitar sound category, right? They're very tame.
Absolutely. We can't discount this either. The package. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? This
That cover.
Yes.
Oh man, I mean the
My-
cover is just
One of my favorites.
absolutely. It's just perfect. Just
Yeah.
the full bleed of the photo. Just
Right.
the logo and lights. Enough said with Alive. I mean, it's
Yep.
just so like you guys. I'm sure all of us would just stare at this, and obviously they're not playing in this photo.
Right.
None of them.
Right. Yeah, it is a great.
Maybe Paul. Maybe
It's
Paul.
a photo.
Yeah.
Photo shoot.
Yeah.
I don't think any of the guitars are actually plugged in.
No. But like Paul's playing there. Okay, I'll give him that. But the other ones are not. Well, I never really thought about that. I was just like, wow. So yeah, that package just seems so huge to us too,
Right.
right?
Oh, and you had that cool booklet inside.
Yes.
It came with the big picture. I actually, on my original Alive album, I cut those pictures out and had those on my wall with my posters and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I pulled the staples out and put all 4
Hey.
of them up on
There you
the
go.
wall.
So Jim
Yeah.
did it right.
yes, he did.
Which
Pulling the
I think
staples.
I think I eventually put those staples back in and
Whoa.
When
Wow.
when you realize that, oh, hey, that's a sort of a collector's item, maybe you better.
When you're a kid, you're not thinking that way.
You're not thinking that,
we
man.
weren't
You
in
just want
that
those cool
mindset.
pictures up on the wall, man.
Yeah. I
No.
cut my. Go ahead,
Anybody
Jim.
else get it for Christmas that year when it came out?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. I did.
Oh.
So Dress to Kill was the first one that I bought. It was the first LP I bought with my own money. By myself. I borrowed money from my Uncle Mac. Went to Kmart and bought Dress to Kill. I was 10. Yeah. So
not a bad one.
Too.
Yeah. No, because I was so intrigued. I mean, the image, like so much of this stuff, it's hard to explain to people, young people, and everything that's happened. But that was an extreme image at the time. You know what I mean? The first album, that was extreme. Like, I didn't see anything like that.
When you would see pictures of them in Cream and Circus Magazine, they were so mysterious.
Yeah.
You see why the religious groups were scared of them. And I don't even know if it was the music that they were afraid of. They were afraid of that. Just Gene Simmons alone.
True.
The blood dripping down his face or the spit in the fire or whatever.
Like demonic.
Yes. Yeah. Now, I will say this. I like Gene's singing voice still during this era.
Yes.
What is it? Rock and Roll Over, or was it Destroyer where he started growling more? Probably Destroyer with God of Thunder.
Yeah.
And it changed. His voice changed, and it was less singing and more of a growl. And
true.
I love Let Me Go Rock and Roll is one of my favorite all-time tunes of theirs, especially on the Alive album.
Yeah.
And I've read so many books. That's a throwaway tune for them. They don't really think of that very highly.
Yeah, that's the one you saw that a couple of years ago. It came out. Elvis's like nephew or something.
Right.
Had the story about him playing it, and then that was the song that was playing, and Elvis walked in like,
yeah,
I can see where these boys are coming from,
right?
Because it's like 50s style songwriting. You know what I mean? Like it's revved up, but you know what I mean. So
I love that tune. I like it.
Elvis was on point.
Yeah, Elvis was absolutely on point. Like, as if I didn't have enough respect for him, hearing that, like
Now, of course, as we've gotten older, and it was almost mandatory to have those long drawn out drum solos on everybody's live album. I would have rather had another tune or two, but how many people at school, I would do Peter Criss's drum solo on my desk and get in trouble constantly. But now looking back, I would wish side, 3 had a couple more songs.
Yeah.
I'm not like a fan of the drum solo necessarily, but this one I like.
Right.
Oh, I don't know.
Awesome.
It's melodic.
Melodic.
Yeah. It's not just a bunch of rolls. I mean, he's and then the cowbell, fair usage of the cowbell.
Right.
Yeah.
But
so
I'm always little taken aback when people kind of disparage Peter. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially those playing with him.
Yes.
When those guys would rag on his playing and they say, oh, well, he was this or he was that, and it's like you chose him, and you chose him for a reason.
Yeah. He had that swing.
You could have got any other drummer, but that's the guy you guys picked, and you picked him for a reason.
Well, he was great, but he got not great.
Right.
While he was still in the band.
At a certain point.
That's the thing.
Right.
Like,
sure.
Yeah. Peter up through 77 or maybe just through 76. Great, but there was a real steep decline though.
I think Eddie Kramer said it was his favorite drummer to work with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes sense up to those first, 6 albums they were playing, 7 if you count Alive 2. Everything after that, I think, was probably spotty at best.
I've always wanted to. I know we're kind of general talking about Kiss now, but I always want to hear the drum solo that you always hear about was cut out of Strange Ways on Hotter Than Hell.
Right.
No, we've never heard that. You know what I mean? It's never leaked.
It's got to be out there somewhere.
It was a big deal. Peter was like, I'm going to quit if it's not in.
Yeah.
Thank God they edited. You don't want that on a studio.
Thank goodness they edited that out.
Yeah. But still, I'd like to hear it.
And that's a
maybe-
slower song. That doesn't really lend itself to drum solo, I don't think.
Yeah.
You
Well-
can imagine a jungle vibe with the way he played, the toms and everything. So
True. Some
Yeah.
effects.
yeah.
I don't know. We need to hear it one day,
Yeah.
maybe. One day, maybe.
Now let's discuss the other live album in this throwdown for a minute. Alive
Yes.
2, of course, and we've on our old podcasts and in conversations, I've mentioned that was my first show. I was
Oh.
a little upset. I went to the Forum on the second night. My parents took myself and my brother to see them. I was under the impression, just like with Alive, I was under the impression it was one show. I that was naive to how things were done.
Of course.
Live 2 was recorded not only at the Forum but also in Budokan and in New Jersey.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and
Now
the
you're
songs
blowing my mind. I thought it was 2 nights at the Forum, and
Yeah. No, not so lucky.
oh wow.
and there's
Yeah,
also songs they weren't doing live.
right.
Like as I look here, Hard Luck Woman.
Yeah.
Tomorrow and Tonight, I think.
Yeah, Tomorrow and Tonight they recreated in the studio.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it was terrible. Yeah. It was terrible in the studio. Why would
No,
they
no,
do
and I don't want to get I know we don't want to get too much into the studio trickery.
right?
Alive 2 sounds more
It's a raw.
fake live to
Yeah,
me
it does.
than Alive. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not a fan of the production of Alive 2.
Yeah.
It's like the audience is too over the top.
Yes. Yes.
I think
And they
that's-
do that in Alive too, but yeah, but on
Right.
Alive 2, yeah, you're right. It's more pronounced and it
Yeah.
it definitely sounds faker.
right.
Yeah.
And I've always complained that it wasn't the set list that I saw because they opened with "I Stole Your Love." They walked down those stairs
Yes.
and it was playing that riff in the beginning of that tune. And then I was so excited because that was another album I got for my birthday or Christmas. Throw that thing on, and here's Detroit
Yeah.
Rock City. I'm like, that was 3 or 4 songs in. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I Stole Your Love is on the record too.
Yes, it is.
Confusingly
Yes.
enough. Yeah.
And weirdly, I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, when they're playing Detroit Rock City and they're doing the instrumental part at the beginning, Paul yells out, "Hello."
Ah,
I think you do hear that. Yeah.
And I'm like, and when you said, "Oh, that wasn't the first song they played," I was saying, why is he saying hello if this is in the middle of the set? That doesn't even make any sense.
Ah.
Unless they added it
They
later
had to
on. I
add-
don't
it was
know,
probably
but-
from the first song. Yeah.
yeah. Because like he did the rest of their career. That hello.
Right. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Hmm,
The-
interesting.
Yeah, my son and I saw him on their last tour. We saw him in Chula Vista, and he had to yell out Chula Vista
right.
Oh yeah.
probably 30 times during the night.
Yeah.
Funny.
Oh yeah. It was great that last week when last time I saw him. He was like Palm Desert.
Right.
It
Yeah.
just doesn't sound. It's not like Cleveland or.
Right.
No,
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, let's talk the Alive album, Alive 2. Let's talk about side 4 on that. The reason they put studio tracks in is because what I read anyways, is they didn't want to repeat any songs that were on the first live album. How do you guys feel about that? Because I would have loved to have heard maybe a couple of those songs again because the band had evolved.
Jim, you want to tell you want me to go?
I don't know that I need to hear Rock and Roll All Night over again, but if there was something that they had played that didn't make the first record, although
Yeah.
I can't imagine
Yeah.
anything that didn't end up on a live one.
Yeah. It was only 2 years later. You got to remember that.
They
So
were cranking those studio albums
They
out.
would've
Yeah, they
been
were
weird.
doing albums like every 6 months or something like that.
it would have been weird.
Crazy.
And I might be in the minority amongst the three of us, but I love side 4 of this
Oh, Ronnie.
movie.
You know what? I think it
whether
absolutely
it fits or not might be a different discussion.
Right.
I think it absolutely has its moments.
Yeah.
I will probably be in the minority and say I like their version of Any Way You Want It.
Oh God. Oh.
It's
But I heard that before I heard the Dave Clark 5, and it's When I was listening, I listened to it again today, as a matter of fact, and I was like,
Do you ever hear the Ramones?
it's pretty
version?
it's pretty dang close to the original. I mean, I don't know that they brought anything different to it.
No. The
It's pretty faithful cover.
Ramones had covered it also. I forget what album I heard off of years and years before that.
Also, this isn't a political show, but it's very pro-America. Two of the
All
songs,
American Man,
correct?
Yeah.
All American Man and a Rockin' in the USA.
That was the first time I knew it wasn't Kiss playing, though. I could tell by the guitar playing that Ace was nowhere to be found except for his own song.
Yeah.
I
didn't know. I mean, I wasn't that savvy. Yeah. I can't pretend to be that savvy, but yeah.
No, I thought it was all Paul.
What's the first song on that side? Is it All American Man?
Yeah.
I think that sounds like an Ace solo.
Oh, it does.
Stylistically.
Bruce Kulick or Bob Kulick covered him to a T.
Yeah.
I think he was definitely trying to cop that vibe.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I just knew. I knew it did not have the same feel to me as, say, Love Gun or their other studio records.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was so disappointed later on to find out that it wasn't a band effort.
I got a good story about that. So I went to the Weenie Roast, the first reunion show, technically, right before Tiger Stadium. Walking in the parking lot, I was there with my friend Bill Bartell, who there's a newly released film on. And this is before we knew any of this. Now we all know Bob Kulick played guitar on that.
Right.
But back then Bill knew. I didn't know. And we saw Bob Kulick walking in Irvine Meadows. And Bill yells at him, "Bob Kulick, solo on All American Man." And Bob just kind of like, yeah.
He was paid not to say anything.
Yeah.
Funny.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, that record they put out, "Shout It Out Loud" as a single. I remember that they played that on the radio, and then "Rocket Ride" was also released as a single.
That's right.
And that is a great riff.
Absolutely.
Maybe corny lyrics, but I don't care. That is a great riff, man.
Yeah.
No, that's a great song. Perhaps that's the best Ace song in the catalog.
Could be.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Not counting the solo record, but get the Kiss catalog.
Right.
And another great package, right, fellas?
Tattoo. We'll talk about the stuff that by this time.
The middle.
Another booklet.
That booklet in there, The Evolution of Kiss, I think it is.
Yes.
Okay. The only thing that I ding on that record of the package is the same pictures are used on the front and the back.
Ah, yes.
They could have given us something else.
That's true. Yeah.
Not that I'm saying, hey, no thanks for the tattoos in the book, but come on.
I never really thought about that. You're right. Yeah.
And that's what's on the trash can. Those are the pictures on the trash can.
That's right.
Which you had, by the way.
Which I do have.
Still have. All right.
Yes.
It's one bit I have in the living room.
All right.
I snuck that in one night. Yeah.
That's what you have to do, little by little.
Julie has a house so perfect and everything. Yeah. I couldn't really mess it up.
Where did this come from? What are you talking about? It's been there.
Well, I just snuck it in at night when she was asleep, and then we went through the whole next day, and later in the night, the next day, she's like, "I saw that, by the way."
It's all that Kiss paraphernalia is going to slowly work its way in.
Yeah. Well,
I'm telling you, you just need to tell her, what are you talking about? You're the one that carried it in. Don't you remember?
You don't recall?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. It's time for the actual throwdown. You have a preference, Ronnie? Which album, Kiss Alive or Kiss Alive 2? If you had to pick one, what would it be?
It's funny because a lot of people, more than you would think, always say Alive 2 is their favorite. But I mean, I don't even think it's a contest. I think we'll probably all pick Alive 1. Maybe not. I'm going to go with Alive 1.
Alive 1. Jim, what about you?
I'm going Alive 1. And it's more than just nostalgia. I think it just packs a wallop.
Yeah. I'm right there with you guys. That album, it is so much of the history of why I got into them.
Yeah. It never gets old. I can hear.
Yeah.
I say this often, there are better records, right? But I can listen to these Kiss records just over and over and over.
Right.
It's weird that way. I can't even explain it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Well,
Yeah.
When they make lists, and Ronnie and I were just talking about this the other day, that lists kind of suck. But Alive shows up on a lot of lists, not just best live album,
Right.
but right.
Yeah.
But like great hard rock albums, great heavy metal albums, man. Kiss Alive shows up on those.
Yeah.
And
It's
influential.
Yes. Even with the drum solo, Frank, that's a
I know.
perfect, it's a perfect.
Well, if you go back and look at any live album other than Peter
It's
Frampton,
true. Yeah.
almost everyone has that drum solo. I mean, go get in line, get your beer, go to the bathroom, come back and finish up the drum solo.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was mandatory. Boy, Black Oak, Arkansas, they all just did. I remember Van Halen, Alex would do the longest drum solos, and they were entertaining though, because you were there in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I got older, sometimes I'd be, oh Jesus Christ, when is this thing gonna end?
Well, it's gonna end.
That was the joke. That's where you go to the bathroom, right? I recently saw Loverboy. They did a drum solo, but it was like 2 minutes.
That's good. Perfect.
It's basically an intro to Turn Me Loose.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
I like
And
that.
the drummer Matt Barnett, he climbs on top of the drums and starts.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, you guys weren't there with me.
Yeah.
So question for both of you. Between the two records and okay, Alive 2's got that kind of funky side 4. I think outside of production, anything else, I think the song choices on Alive 1 just trounce Alive 2. And I think Alive 2 has some great moments on it.
I don't know. The flow of, like I said, what I thought was a full concert.
Yeah.
It flows seamlessly.
Yeah.
The song choices, again, those first 3 albums that do come alive from those studio efforts. They were after that, like I say, Love Gun and Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over, they had finally found a good sound in the studio, especially Rock and Roll Over.
I agree.
That raw sound of Rock and Roll Over is that's my favorite studio album. They produced that on Alive too, but then I think they mucked it up with all that fake crowd noise.
Yeah, even if there was no Alive and Alive 2 was able to have songs from Alive,
right,
it still wouldn't be as good as Alive. It wouldn't.
I don't think it'd be as iconic as Alive.
Yeah.
There's no,
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
But again, Alive 2 comes around, they were on top of the world. 77, holy cow. Gene Simmons was selling his stool. It was okay. He could people would buy anything at that point that had the Kiss name on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and I think that's why that album went double platinum. And then the first one initially was a gold record.
Yeah.
But but let's face it, it did everything for them.
Yes.
Some of it
gold,
just falls a
platinum,
little
whatever.
flat.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Hard Luck Woman as a song. I just don't think that live version carries, right?
Yeah. No, true. Well, they had to fill it out, right? They only had there's only there were three records, right, to choose from. Yeah, you're right.
And that's why
they didn't do it live anyway. They didn't do Hard Luck Woman because can you imagine how that would have been in that show you saw? Yeah.
That's probably why.
Yeah.
I mean, it just
exactly.
What about the rare version of Alive 2, the rare misprinted cover you got?
I wish I had a copy of that. Would Take
Me too.
And
Take Me and Hooligan.
Or the misprints.
Yes, I need.
it says that on the label.
Yeah,
Yes.
or on the cover. And this is actually something you could actually find. You could actually be lucky enough to find, and no one would know.
Right.
That priced it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was that on a? That couldn't have been on a first pressing, though, right?
It was like the first printing of the cover. Often back then they'd print the cover. That's why song orders are often
messed up. Yeah. I've got a few of those laying around.
Oh yeah. No, we all do. Yeah. But that's.
I guess it would have had if they had printed it really early, right? And then hey, guess what? That's not what's going on here.
That's other stuff we need to hear. Let's hear that version of Hooligan that was slated for Alive too.
Yeah. I've seen them play Hooligan on YouTube, more on I think the Dynasty tour.
Right.
It would have been great to hear it on that album.
Hooligan. I won't go to school again.
That's right.
Yeah, probably one of my least favorite songs, just for that rhyme. I
But
think.
you know what? But at least it had Peter Criss singing. He was a great live singer too.
Absolutely.
He had
No.
that voice.
Great. I mean, it's arguable that Peter Criss had the best voice.
Yeah.
You know.
I agree.
Yeah. But you know.
Oh well.
Oh
He's
well.
got those sandpaper vocals.
Yes.
Yeah.
It works perfectly in things like Black Diamond and
Come on. Nothing to lose.
Nothing to Lose. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. All right, guys. Let's bring this to a close. We have a knockout. We're going for a live.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolute
Now-
knockout.
Ronnie, you could have to refresh my memory. Was it the name Alive with the exclamation point? Who was that a nod to? What band?
Oh, well, Slade had an album.
Slade.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, everything in rock and roll seems to be borrowed.
Oh, absolutely.
As
True.
original as we thought Kiss was at the time, they were borrowing just about everything other than that fantastic stage show they did.
Right. Well, also, and I know we're closing, but the packaging. This is
Yes.
when the art director Dennis Wallach, if I'm
Mhm.
pronouncing that correctly,
Yep.
came on board.
Right.
Who came from the advertising world, and let's give him a lot of credit for these their packaging and everything from that point on.
Right.
I mean, that's pure advertising background. Advertising all their records.
Yep.
I remember reading
But
the story about making them write those notes,
Yes.
and that was a very personal touch. And I've read those things probably
million
100
times.
times while you listen to the records,
Right. And then didn't Lydia do Peters?
Yes. Yeah. He
Yeah,
could
yeah,
write
yeah,
this.
yeah,
You
yeah.
could tell by looking at it.
Yeah. It had
I
Miss-
just
yeah.
remember my dad reading those and like raising an eyebrow, right?
Uh-huh.
I had no idea what they were talking about.
Right.
A few
That's it.
years later, and it made
Right.
a little more sense.
All right,
But,
the Gene one about all you delicious victims or whatever he's saying in there. Yeah.
well, I was thinking of Ace, something about thanks for helping me get off.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which,
Exactly.
hadn't entered the strong vernacular yet. at that
I didn't know what lead guitar was when that record came out either. I didn't know the term. I didn't really know what that meant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good.
Again, we could keep going all night, fellas.
Yeah.
we could.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Ronnie, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Yeah, so good to have you aboard tonight. It's always
No.
great to see you. and
Next
always
time,
great to hear your voice.
No, good to see you guys.
Yes.
We could throw down again anytime.
we'll pick
whatever.
some off the wall albums.
I was
whatever
going to
you can
say
think of.
we could do something a little more.
and if it would probably surprise a few folks if it wasn't Kiss related. So, all right. Well, this will close it out. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right.
See you next week.